In last week's video, I challenged atheists with the question, if there is no God, then how do you account for the existence of evil in the world? It was a philosophical question. I was kind of turning things around. But based on the feedback in the comments, they didn't like that question at all. I got a lot of challenges, a lot of comments. It was pretty interesting. At the same time that this was happening, a video that I made 3 weeks ago challenging traditional Catholics to get back into the Novus Ordo parishes and teach about the true presence of Jesus Christ in the Holy Eucharist. For some reason, that video went crazy and started getting a ton of views, more views than any video on my channel has ever gotten before. So at the exact same time, at the exact same moment, over the weekend during the Super Bowl, I had a couple of guys over for the Super Bowl. My phone was blowing up with comments from atheists passionately defending their beliefs and traditional Catholics defending their beliefs. And one of my friends pointed out how ironic this is. I have two small YouTube channels. I've made well over 100 videos for a general Catholic audience. And I've taken a lot of jabs at Catholics for the complacency, a lot. And never, not once, has any Catholic ever given me any challenges, feedback. It's like they didn't notice or they didn't care. But these two groups, atheists and traditional Catholics, were so passionate about what they believed, and they made it known very clearly in the comments. So I want to address some of the comments that were made, the general comments that were made in both videos in this video. And I'm going to speak to the atheists and the atheist comments first. So traditional Catholics, hang on, I'm saving you for a second. So I presented a philosophical argument for the existence of God based on the existence of evil, which I thought this was a fairly commonly known argument. I guess not, based on the comments. And I was going to present that argument in this video, but in thinking about it, I don't know that argument well enough, and I'll probably just make a fool of myself. So I'm going to study up and try to present that argument in a future video. But I do want to address the comments. The comments were, the only reason that evil is a problem is if you believe in a good, all-knowing, all-present God. My understanding of this argument, and if this is not clear, please clarify in the comments. My understanding of this argument is either that a good, all-knowing, all-powerful God would not have created a universe that had evil in it, or if he did create this universe and evil was occurring, he would intervene to stop that evil from happening, to stop that suffering from happening. I thought about this throughout the week, and it occurred to me, I've heard that argument before. I've actually used that argument, not in the context of whether or not there was a God, but I used it in a different context, and I want to share that with you because I have another challenge for all of us. About 20 years ago, I was coming out of the cathedral in downtown Nashville. If you're from Nashville, you can visualize this. There was a Taco Bell right across the street from the cathedral. They tore it down. There was a help wanted sign in the window on this particular day, and I stepped out of the cathedral after coming out of Mass. There was a homeless man waiting there for us to come out of Mass so that he could ask us for money. And he asked me, "Do you have $1?" He said, "Can you spare $1?" And I kind of looked at him, smirked, and kind of looked at the help wanted sign, and I smirked, and I'm like, immediately, I made the judgment that this guy is going to go and get drunk. And I looked at him and said, "No, I'm sorry, I don't have $1." And that was a lie. I had $1, okay? You know what else I had? I had knowledge. I wasn't all-knowing. I just had a little bit of knowledge. I had knowledge that he needed $1. I had that knowledge because he told me he needed $1. I also had power. I wasn't all-powerful. I had about this much power. And with this little bit of knowledge and this little bit of power, I refused to help this man to stop his suffering because I made the judgment call that he was going to go get drunk, which I really didn't know. I wonder how many of you watching this video have had, with that little bit of knowledge or this little bit of power, made the same judgment call. So, instead of arguing in this video in the comments like we did last week about whether or not God exists based on whether or not he is going to stop suffering with all his knowledge and all his power, instead of doing that, let's come together and do something very different this week. Every one of us, every single one of us, me, you, all of the traditional Catholics watching this, all the atheists, everybody, this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, this video comes out on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, go downtown, give a homeless man $1. Regardless of whether you make the judgment call that he's going to get drunk, regardless of whether he smells like liquor, give him $1. You have the knowledge that he needs it. You have the power to give it to him. You're not all knowing, you're not all powerful, but this is how much power you have, this $1. Use your power to stop this man's suffering. I want everyone to do this. And instead of arguing in the comments about whether God exists, do this. And we'll have that discussion about whether God exists in a future video. Do this. Click the like button after you do it. And then, if something extraordinary happens during this experience, tell us about it in the comments. I imagine some of the people who do this, nothing will happen. The guy will take the $1 and he'll disappear. Some of the people who do this will give the guy $1 and actually watch him turn around and walk into a liquor store, and I'll be wrong, right? But maybe a few of you will do this and something extraordinary will happen. You will witness this individual's suffering stop. So instead of atheists and Christians having this dumb argument in a giant circle that never stops with giant books written in the comments that nobody actually reads, let's all do a little to stop a little bit of suffering this weekend. Come back to this video and put that in the comments. So about 3 weeks ago, I released a video challenging traditional Catholics, traditionally minded Catholics. And I know everybody hates using these terms to identify everybody. I apologize for that. But it's the nature of the situation. I challenged them to consider coming back to the subdivisions on occasion to the Novus Ordo parishes and taking on teaching roles as catechists, DREs, music directors, and teaching what we know about the Holy Eucharist. About, I think, 10 years ago, I started giving presentations in the parish hall at our parish with a slide projector, and I got all the content out of Scott Hahn's books. I made a PowerPoint, and people were eating it up. I went through the whole Old Testament and the New Testament, explaining how the liturgy came out of the Old Testament, and they ate it up. That's what I'm talking about. Now, I made a mistake in that video, and I used the term lay Eucharistic minister, and everybody just absolutely corrected me, and thank you for correcting me. The term is not lay Eucharistic minister. There is no such thing as a lay Eucharistic minister. The correct term, and I knew this, was extraordinary, not extraordinary, extraordinary Eucharistic minister. The connotations of extraordinary is a whole nother problem. It's extraordinary because it's a lay person should not have this role on a regular basis. It should be only in emergencies or in dire need. And everybody, that was the one issue. It like eclipsed my message, and I wish I didn't put that one little comment, I wish I didn't put it in the video, because the video was about education. In reality, there's two sides of this issue. There's the institutional church and the decisions that the institutional church makes. But there's also the education of the people that are coming to Mass. Now, we don't have any role in making institutional decisions for this church. And leaving and going downtown, that's not going to solve the problem. That's a short game plan. We need to think long term. We need to think 20 years from now. We need to think 50 years from now, 100 years from now, that this problem doesn't exist. And the only way that happens, unless A, there's some miraculous intervention from heaven, B, the institutional church changes her mind about what she's doing, and I don't see that happening, or C, we educate the rest of the laity about the true presence of Jesus Christ in the Holy Eucharist so that this movement of ours grows. This movement is growing like crazy. It has grown so much over the last 20 years, but it's still just a blip on the radar of the whole population of the church. The movement long-term needs to grow, and we need to have a plan, a long-term plan. If it was just about lay, extraordinary ministers, if it was just about the Novus Ordo, if that was the only issue that we were dealing with, then we could solve it this weekend, before Sunday Mass this weekend. All it would take would be the Knights to put on a couple fundraisers and gather all the carpenters in that parish and build a communion rail in the church, in every church in the country, before Sunday Mass this weekend. That's all it would take. There's nothing that's preventing that from... There is something preventing it, right? Because that couldn't happen, right? That's the problem. Technically, there's no reason that shouldn't happen or can't happen, but there is. And the only role we have to play in that is education. Think on a larger scale. How is this happening? It's not just happening because the church instituted the Novus Ordo. It's happening because progressivism has grown over the course of 100 years in our country, in society, in secular society. Think about the people who come to Novus Ordo Mass. Think about where they're coming from. Their education was secular. I'm not speaking negatively about public education at all. I'm just stating a fact. Their education was primarily public education. I know there's exceptions. Don't. But their education was primarily secular. They now have a job standing at a water cooler, having conversations with people who are not Catholic about all the shows that they watched on network TV last night for 6 hours. That's what they're being fed on. In order for this movement to grow, we need them. They need to learn about the true presence of Jesus Christ in the Holy Eucharist. They will love Jesus Christ in the Holy Eucharist if they know about it. When I did those teachings in the parish hall, or whatever they called it, while the PowerPoint was up on the screen behind me with all the Old Testament imagery, I stood in front of the PowerPoint pointing in the direction of the church and telling the people, Jesus Christ is truly present in that tabernacle. You should go in that church and you should kneel down and you should pray on a regular basis. I told them before Mass, you should come early and prepare your heart to receive Jesus. After Mass, you should kneel down and pray a rosary and thanksgiving for Jesus. We can do that. Every parish in this country can have teachers teaching this in all the different ways you can teach in a parish, not just through being a catechist, not just through RCI, being the DRE, being the music director. Those are all methods for teaching. Those are roles that we need to have. Now, if you do not have the heart of a teacher, or if you're not a good teacher, then please do not engage in this mission. I said in that last video that this is not something for everybody to participate in. This is for teachers. This is for catechists. If you're not that, then maybe your role in this mission is to simply stay downtown and pray for this mission, to pray for the future of our church. And that's probably the vast majority of people. I want to welcome all the new subscribers to this channel. I want to thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.